welcome back to the channel, Off The Underside. Tonight we're joined by a couple of brilliant Scottish comedians. They've done their own work, stand-up stuff, but they're teaming up to do a live stage show called Double Trouble Road to World Cup. I'm joined by Amanda, Hursy and Kirsty Lynch. How you doing, guys?
Hello, I'm good.
Hiya,
Thanks.
how you doing?
Very, very well. There's a wee bit of technical difficulties to start with here, but I'm sure we'll get through it. All good, all good. But so like I say, you've got a stage show coming up. But first of all, I want to just talk about a wee bit about your comedy background and stuff. We'll start with you, Kirsty. How did you get involved in comedy in the first place?
Well, I've always wanted to do it for probably I was about 18, 19, but then day job took over, got married, had a kid, and had a bit of a career, and then probably about just over 3 years ago, decided I'd taken redundancy from my work after the pandemic, and found myself like kind of now having joined the company single and childless, left at age 42, married, and didn't know like what I stood for or wanted to do something for me. And I thought I was at a baby shower and everybody's like, that was dead funny, you should do this. And I came home after a few bottles of wine and wrote what must have been a very funny email to the stand and said I'd love to try it, and then get an email saying 2 weeks later, aye, that's you, you've got a 5-minute spot. And then went, oh shit, I need to write material now. So that was it. Just was doing it to tick it off the bucket list and do something for me. Fully expected to die on my backside when I got up there, and here I am 3 years later, and I've not been found out yet, so I'm just going to keep going.
How did that first gig go then?
It went well. It went surprisingly well, actually. And the stand kind of came back to me. Like you can get feedback for the stand, and the stand came back to me and offered me a 10-minute spot about a month and a half later. And I was like, oh shit, now I need to write double the material. So it just kind of went from strength to strength for that. But doing it like just a bit of something for me. And something I'd always wanted to try. So here I am, still going at the moment. So we'll see how long it goes for.
Right. What about yourself, Amanda? How did you get involved?
I got involved because I went for a job promotion at my work, and I got told that I needed more confidence presenting. So to get back at my boss, I signed up to a charity event. It was like a 6-week course with an amazing teacher called Viv G. She's had her hand in most of Scottish comedy, coaching quite a lot of the big names. And basically I turned up expecting it to just be like a charity thing, proving my boss wrong, but it was kind of a joke that went too far, because I get booked back and I've just been gone ever since. So that's kind of how I got my start in comedy, and just love it. Glad I found it.
Do you remember your first gig as well?
My first gig was basically a baptism of fire. It was 300 people at the Glee Club in Glasgow. And as I said, it was a charity event. It was a charity called Ultra Comedy, and it was for cancer research. And basically, I was quite aware that a lot of the audience would be, forgiven. It's a charity event sort of thing. But it went well. And as I said, I get booked back, and I've been kept going. But I remember the first gig like it was yesterday. I think definitely the nerves and the anticipation of what will be. So it was the Glee in Glasgow, my first gig.
Kirsty, what about growing up in that? Was there any particular comedians that you really admired and you thought, I want to be like them?
Well, the thing is, I really liked like the kind of old style American kind of comics, like Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, and all that kind of thing. That was my generation of growing up, and like obviously Billy Connolly and things like that as well. But for me, it was comedy was quite a big thing. It was like with Saturday nights and stuff like that, and like getting the videos and everything for the video shop. So that was the kind of old school comedy that I grew up with in the 80s and the 90s. Eddie Murphy, Ron, things like that. So it was just that kind of style that I kind of liked in terms of storytelling and things like that. So that's the kind of style I've got, storytelling. everything is loosely based on something that really has happened.
Yeah, Raw and Delirious, that was his too, wasn't it, back in the day?
Aye.
What about yourself, Amanda?
So this is where I get very jealous of lots of other comedians who have stories like that. Now, I didn't really watch comedy growing up. The funniest people I knew was my neighbours and my family and everyday people that I worked with. And I got a late entry into comedy. So I basically started discovering comedy in my 30s. Obviously, growing up in Glasgow, everybody's kind of funny. And it was like probably the Still Game era, Chewing the Fat, Karen Dunbar, that sort of stuff that I was exposed to on TV. But in terms of straight stand-up, probably when Kevin Bridges had it big was my first exposure to it, really. But I guess growing up, it was my neighbours, my family, my friends that we all made each other laugh. It wasn't any specific person that I can't remember anyway.
Defo. I just want to ask you a bit about your style of writing and stuff like that. How is it you come up with the ideas and that? Is it just something that comes to you naturally, or do you just sit down and try and think of stuff? I don't really know how it works.
Wait, Amanda first on this. I think she's got more of a structure than me, to be honest.
Well, a lot of my, I'm basically a storyteller, stand-up, and a lot of my stuff is just real life experiences. I guess I learned a technique. I've done my first ever Fringe show in August last year, and that was my debut ever. So I learned how to kind of piece it together and follow a structure and make it make sense for an audience. I think that basically my life's a disaster, if I'm honest, so it's just quite easy to find the laughs involved and then just try to make it make sense, making sure there's enough gags and finding the punchlines. But a lot of my debut show was called Carted, and it's all about getting arrested. So about making mistakes and coming out of them, and it was quite easy to find the funny in that. So that's kind of how I operate. And when it comes to like writing things for a specific event, maybe like breaking the news, or if you're writing to a theme, then that would be like looking at the news and try and find a funny angle and writing to a particular topic. But when it's my stand-up, I just draw off real life experiences, and it seems to be going all right so far.
What about yours, Kirsty? Is yours slightly different?
Mine's is slightly different. I walk about with like kind of notepads, and I've got like notes that are mad on my phone. So if there's something happens and I think, oh, that could be something, or that could be a story, or that could be. So I think it's, for me, it's just catching things. I mean, I was out a couple of weeks ago with my like auntie and stuff like that, and something happened, and I'm like straight on the phone, and my auntie's like, oh, is that me getting in the book now? And I'm like, it's for me, it's that kind of observation of things that are happening, and it goes down. But that's one of the things that with Amanda and I doing this together, you know, it's the opportunity to learn from one another and all that kind of thing. And I think like that's one of the things I'm really keen to kind of learn more from Amanda in terms of that kind of writing approach, because I'm more, oh, there's something funny, right, get it down, then go back to it, and how do I do that, rather than I'm maybe not as disciplined, which I think I can learn from Amanda when it comes to that kind of writing stuff. So opportunity to learn from one another, I think.
I'll tell you what, but it takes some amount of guts to actually just even go up on stage and do it. I mean, I'm a big fan of comedy as well. I could never ever do it. I was listening to, Shane Gillis, the American comedian.
Aye.
Yep.
I was listening to him the other day. He was actually on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how for years he was absolutely just basically dying his arse. Every single time he was going to a gig and stuff like that, it was just like, nobody was laughing. There was people actually, he actually told a joke about, well, I was just telling a story about how he was sitting there one day and it was so bad that he heard the guy in the front row going, well, that was a good one. You know what I mean? Because the rest of them were just terrible sort of thing. So is that still daunting to you guys to go up there and do that? Or are you getting a wee bit kind of more used to it now?
I think for me, there's always that kind of buzz every time you're going on. Do you know what I mean? There is that nervousness. There is that kind of adrenaline. I tend to kind of go on, and then when I come off, it's the adrenaline and my legs start shaking and things like that. So I'm the opposite. It's after I've come off stage, I'm like, oh my God, that was mental. And get
That's funny. Sorry to interrupt you. That's funny you should say that though, because Shane Gillis said that in the exact same story, how he actually was more nervous when he came off, which I just find bizarre. So it's funny you said that actually.
It is. I get the opposite, but I think I've always kind of said to myself, if you don't have that and you're no nervous going on, or you're not getting the buzz fit, then that's the day you shouldn't be doing it anymore. So for me, I think as long as you've always got that, it's a good adrenaline and it's a good nervousness, because you want to go on and you want to do well and you want to enjoy it. You know what I mean? So I'm more nervous coming off though, which is bizarre. I've never understood it.
What about you, Amanda? Do you still get the old nerves?
Absolutely. I don't feel nervous coming off the stage. It's like a euphoric type of buzz. Whereas before, look, I get into comedy to get over a fear of public speaking, so it's very much still there. But that's part of the fun. It's like it's a level of madness, I would say, because you want to take the risk. I love doing new material. I love my favourite sort of comedy events is like doing new stuff. I think it's great when you hone a joke in and you know your set and you know where the story's gone and you're performing a show. Obviously that's great, but for me, my biggest joy in comedy is creating something new that day and going to see if it gets a laugh or not. And it's that adrenaline, it's that nervousness. When it goes great, it's the best feeling in the world, but when it doesn't work, it's pretty crushing as well. So I think it's the risk that I love. But of course, I still get nervous. I'm a pacer. I like to pace before a gig. So that's kind of how I cope before I go on.
Comedians are slightly mad, let's be honest, I mean, you've just said there a crazy line of I get to stand-up comedy to cure my fear of public speaking. I mean, that's take the bull by the horns, that one, is it not?
Well, basically something happened a few years ago and it was like I wanted to face my fears. So I've got a fear of heights and I've done a bungee jump, and it was just basically trying to face fears. In comedy, it seemed to be something that kept drawing me back. And then I just kind of fell in love with it. The community's been really good, and just, I guess, having that creative side of your brain again, having something to... I really like the writing side of it. I mean, long term, if I could, I would love to just write for other people and be a ghostwriter. I mean, I think I would still get enjoyment out of that, I think, whereas the performance side doesn't really come naturally. But, you know, based on the reviews and stuff, like people go, oh, you're a natural, you don't feel that way. Because as I said, you're still nervous, but there's just no better feeling. But I think everybody in comedy, no matter who they are, whether they're just starting or whether they're, you know, the Joe Rogans or, you know, the top comics, there is, you know, it's not normal to face a crowd of people. There is obviously something wrong with everyone is.
No. I don't know what to quite say that, but
it's quite fun trying to spot, you know, what is it they've got.
Sometimes it's more obvious than
just tell me a wee bit about how you used to actually met. Was it just through the circuit?
Through comedy, I think, like, being a female comedian, it's a lot better now, and there is probably more people doing it, but there's a lot more men proportionally doing comedy than there is women, and there's only like 4 spots on any given lineup, so usually you don't get to meet the other women in the scene. And then we met on the circuit and we done something called Giggles for Glasgow, which was like a compilation show with 4 women, myself, Kirsty, a lassie called Yvonne and a lassie called Tia, and we went to Manchester, done the Women in Comedy Festival, and me and Kirsty got on really well. We realised we had the same love for football and had, you know, a lot in common. And we done a gig in March, Double Trouble. It was like a new material night, so 30 minutes each. That sold out. It went really well. And we just decided to do something for the World Cup.
When we were in Manchester, and we went to Leicester as well. We went to Manchester, and then we get
and Barcelona.
And Barcelona, but we went to Leicester with the Giggles for Glasgow. Me and Amanda get put in the same room because I think the two of us were the most mischievous out the group. So that was when we kind of thought, oh God, and we just got on dead well, as Amanda's saying. But we went to Barcelona to do the Barcelona Fringe in October into November last year. And it was that was when like we started discovering the things that we had in common and the same kind of passions. And I think one of the things that I kind of took away from it was that like we were there, we were performing, but it was just chill. There was no pressure, and it was just really fun. And that's what we're hoping to get out of kind of what we're doing with this, like, you know, fun stuff that we're passionate about and just kind of enjoying it and hopefully bringing folk along with the ride.
Defo. You mentioned your love of football a wee minute ago there, Kirsty. You were actually involved in football as a coach. How did that come about, and what kind of level was that at?
The two years were. So I coached. I did sports coaching at college, and I was a SFA qualified up to my C license. So it was in 1997 or 1997, believe it or not. So that's me showing my age. I'm a bit older than Amanda, but it was at the time where like they were making everybody that was coaching football starting to go through the SFA qualifications. So previous to that, MD could coach any youth team without any piece of paper. So when I was doing sports coaching at college, that's when the SFA were doing the big push. So as part of our college course, we started doing our qualifications as part of it. And it was mad because I was doing my coaching certificates the same time as physios and some ex-players and some coaches like that were kind of professional. And I'd been asked, I worked in Safeway when I was a student, and one of the guys that worked there had said, look, there's a group of boys for Renfrew. We want to set up a football team. You know, you up for kind of helping out? And I went, no bother, that'll get my coaching hours under my belt and stuff like that. And I went to the KG5s in Renfrew on the Sunday, and there was like 21 young lads there, and the guy never showed up. So I was like, oh no. So I was left with these young boys, did a couple of training exercises, got them playing a game, and then I was like, right, well, that's it. I'll see you later, boys. And my sister, I was in the house, and my sister shouted up the stairs, she went, there's all these boys from my school at the front door. They want to speak to you. And they pretty much came to me and says, look, would you coach us? And I was like, right. And they weren't, I was 17, so they were all maybe about 15. So there wasn't that much an age gap between us. But we trained and I applied to the Paisley District League under 16s. And it was one of those ones where it was like in an old man's working club. They used to have the kind of the meetings, the members meetings, and you had to go. There was only 2 places for 2 teams. It was one of the most difficult ones to get into. And I'm sitting with all these old guys outside, and you had to go in and pitch your team, basically, because this was a group of boys that hadn't played together, hadn't trained together, so it wasn't as if they were progressing through the league. It was a brand new team. And I must have done an all right pitch, because they then come out, and it's like you're all sitting there, and they come in and shout, right, Inchley Football Club, which was our club, and another name, and that was it. And the other 3 just get turned away. That was it. So you were in, but it was like all these old guys and stuff like that. And like I remember, I was saying to Amanda not that long ago, like when I used to go on the pitch, there would be like you'd be up other coaches, and the ref would introduce you, and they wouldn't shake my hand or anything. It was like a lassie coaching football. How's this happening? And then my team beat them. So then by the end of it, they're like, you done all right, hen, no bother. So that was my kind of journey doing it. And I used to coach for like different clubs and things like that, youth teams like St Mirren and stuff like that as well. But it was that's how I kind of get into it. It was it's what I wanted to do after college and went into it that way. So but then life took over. So
yeah, as it always does.
What
about yourself, Amanda?
Well, I always loved football. I was a real tomboy growing up, and basically all I wanted to do was score goals. That was my main ambition in life. And I won a scholarship to the Glasgow School of Sport, and that was basically an athletics school. and I was training to be a sprinter for the Commonwealth Games, and basically we get told that we couldn't do football because it would affect our training. Basically, sprinters have got different bodies to footballers, and it would you get told to give up the sport basically, which I ended up having to do. But I got all my coaching badges as well through athletics as well as football, and I got a job. It was with the SFA actually, and it was going around all the schools doing like early touches football, so young learning, basically toddlers from 4 to 16 or something like that. And it was going in all the schools before and after school and doing all that sort of training. I then basically got a job in corporate sales. I've been doing that for over 20 years, and I kind of fell out of love for football, I'm not going to lie. Like, I used to go to all the games, but I then had to start taking customers to the games as part of the corporate package, and you realise that you don't even want to be with these people, and you just I started not really enjoying the games. So I fell away from it. So I think part of this road to the World Cup is to try and reignite the passion that I had for it, and just, you know, get back to things that I actually enjoy. I think since the pandemic really, and since the world's kind of on a never-ending fireball, I want to just try and do things that I enjoy. I want to work with people that I get on with and just have a laugh again. And basically, you know, 28 years since we qualified, what an excuse to get back into it.
Definitely.
It was funny. I was talking to my dad the other night because I was 18 when we last qualified, and it was £1 a pint in the nightclub that I was in watching the first Scotland game at the France 98, and I was on the Sidern Blackcurrant, and my dad was saying to me, he says, I remember that well the morning after, because they had just had the house painted white, and I wasn't very well after the £1 a pint Sidern Blackcurrant at the window. So my dad's like saying to me, he hopes there's no repeat of that.
I doubt it, man. It won't be £1 a pint anyway this time.
No, but maybe that's a call for all the hospitality. Is go back to 28 years ago. Go back to the prices for the games. That would be good.
See, I was thinking about the World Cup earlier on actually, because I remember '98 as well, and I remember I stayed right next to Ibrox. That's where I grew up, and so obviously that's right next to Bellehouston Park, and obviously the games against Brazil and stuff like that was during the day. But obviously this time is going to be at night. But during the day, '98, it was just a great experience. You know, they'd put stuff on in the actual park, you know, for kids and stuff. I think I was about 12 at the time, and they put a big screen up to watch the game, and they'd done all sorts of activities and all that. So it's a bit of a shame it's going to be at night, because, you know what I mean, they could have done that again. But I just remember it being lovely days. You know what I mean? That's just the memories. That's the thing, though. That's the World Cup. That's what it does. It gives you memories and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
What school did you go to, Jamie? Was it Bellehouston?
No, I went to Lourdes, just along the road at Donald. But Kirsty, you mentioned your dad. We need to talk about your dad for a wee minute. I mean, he is an ex-footballer. We had him on the show, Dave McKinnon. Used to play for Rangers and Kilmarnock and stuff like that. What was it like growing up with a dad who was well known in Scotland?
Hated it. Absolutely hated it. No, the thing was, like, I was lucky enough. I've got a sister and a brother. So my sister's 8 years younger than me, and my sister's 6 years younger. My brother's 8 years younger. And I was lucky enough that I grew up and can remember my dad playing football. So I remember I was lucky enough that I did go to Ibrox and stuff like that. But I always loved my mum's angle on it. My mum was never like the footballer's wife. We were always taken in. And we were always in with the wee tea woman, Jeannie, and like we were always sitting having a cup of tea, and my mum was like helping out and stuff. And when she used to go to the Rangers dances, she always wore an emerald green dress, because she knew nobody else would be wearing nobody else would have a green dress at a Rangers dance. But I think for me it was tough growing up, if I'm honest, because you felt like we would be away places, and like I was lucky enough that my granny grandpa stayed in America. So during the summer, me and my mum, my sister and my brother would go to America, and then my dad would only be able to come and join us for a couple of weeks because he was on tours and stuff like that. So I did find it quite difficult, and never ever wanted to kind of anybody to know who my dad was, and it was difficult getting into sports coaching because we stayed in Renfrew, and everybody in Renfrew knew everybody's business. And I worked in Safeway, and folk would come in and go, "Oh, did your dad get you into that?" And I'm like, "No, I done it myself," you know. And like when I was coaching football and stuff like that, you know, every day people make assumptions that you've only got somewhere because that's who your dad is. So for me, I totally kind of did try and shy away from the fact that was my dad. But no, now that I'm older, I'm like, right, Dad, any chance you can help us get in touch with these people. And I wish I did enjoy it more at the time. But it's funny because like my brother never ever really seen my dad play. You know, he's got boys himself, so it's like looking over old clips and stuff like that. But my daughter, she was in her biology class a couple of weeks ago, and the teacher found out who her grandpa was, and she goes to a Catholic school in Paisley, and the next thing they've got a video of my dad playing for Rangers, and she's like, "Oh no!" So she's at that age where she's like mortified about it, and she hates the fact that I do this. So the thing I hated, I'm now putting my daughter through.
That just shows you that. Just shows you.
Aye.
But it's funny you're saying that, but you hated it and stuff because it's funny because obviously you're in that situation and stuff. But looking in on that, I think I'd be like, "Oh, do you know who my dad is?" And all that to everybody. Do you know what I mean? But obviously it's different when you're actually living it.
Hated it, and the thing was like, see, we. Like, I don't know if my dad will ever speak about that, and he'll probably kill me for doing it. But like where we stayed, if Rangers won, then there was abuse. If Rangers lost because he was a defender, there was abuse. So it didn't matter how, if it was an Old Firm game, it didn't matter what way the result went. Do you know what I mean? There was always something hitting off the window or something like that, and like, you know, So you there was the good times about it, but there was also the bad times about it as well, and things like that as well. So it was a bit mad, but yes, proud of him, but probably only now that I'm an adult.
Right. I get that, I understand that. But let's talk a wee bit about the show then. Who came up with the idea? And can you tell us a wee bit about it as well, please?
Amanda, over to you for this one.
I've missed that question, sorry, my signal cut out.
That's all right. Just asking who came up with the idea of the show, and can you tell us a bit about it?
All right. Basically, the road to the World Cup is for football fans and for anybody who's never considered themselves a fan. Basically, anybody who wants to get behind the national team, we are trying to bring a show that's fun and accessible for everybody and have a bit of a laugh. I mean, obviously, we're passionate. We want to support Scotland, but we know that it is Scotland and we might need a bit of humour when it comes to the games. So we are trying to just have a laugh and just enjoy yourselves. I wanted to do something for the Euros, but I think this feels right. And working with Kirsty and just, you know, presenting the show and as a road to the World Cup and just a big party basically is what the show's all about. And I think that it's an absolute bargain. We're keeping the tickets deliberately at a tenner to make it accessible to most budgets. Because I think the fans are already getting priced out the World Cup by going to support the team, and a lot of things are just a fortune, but we are making ours accessible to get everybody involved in the conversation and just have a laugh basically. Going into this year, one of the big goals I wanted to achieve was to have more fun and to have merry a laugh. I think when you start something new, especially comedy, you expect it to be such a laugh behind the scenes, and it isn't really. You know, it's extremely hard work, and I wanted to try and get back to having fun and having a laugh. So this is what this is all about. So come along.
I'm buzzing for it, and I'm delighted that Amanda kind of shared the idea and the concept, because like Amanda and I speak quite a bit, and she'd say, "Look, I've got this idea," and I went, "Oh, that's a belter," and I think it's brilliant to work with somebody who's as passionate as you are, and also is hardworking, and that's the thing. And I think for me, it was like one of the, as soon as Amanda had shared the idea, I started like when I was going to the hairdressers or going to the nails or going, I was like speaking to women and saying to them, look, did you watch the game? Like, will you be getting behind the team? And a lot of them were saying, yeah, I want to, but I don't feel I can. I don't know enough about it. And I think, like, as Amanda says, it's for, like, hopefully there's something for everybody. So we've got a couple of absolute belters of guests coming on Saturday with Rose Riley and Gordon Smith. So, you know, getting that background, getting those kind of legends there, great for football fans, but also the educational element for those folk that might not feel they belong as part of the conversation, and that accessibility to it, and being able to, you know, understand how did we get there, what were the goals, you know, be able to get behind the team and get enthusiastic and passionate about it, I think, and as I say, just that educational piece as well, whilst hopefully having some laughs along the way. That's part of kind of why I'm doing it as well, you know, just about that everybody wants to get behind it, but some people don't feel they belong as part of the conversation. And having been somebody that was involved in football and for quite a bit of that time in that journey, was told you didn't belong because you were a female doing it, or told that you didn't belong as part of that football, for me, being able to make that as accessible to folk that might not feel part of it is a big thing as well.
Brilliant. Nah, good on you for doing it, man, as well. You know what I mean? It will hopefully educate people on that as well, that women should be involved in it and can be involved in it, and, you know, bring their take to it and stuff like that as well. And obviously that is a couple of brilliant guests I've got. Rose Riley, the only Scottish person ever won the World Cup. Exactly. And Gordon Smith as well. He's good as well, man. He's good.
Aye. So we've been lucky, and that's kind of one of the things that I think, you know, for us sitting probably 8 weeks ago going, oh, here's an idea, to it now coming up on Saturday with the hype and everything, and like yourselves reaching it, like it's just been incredible, the support. So we hope this is something start of something exciting, and yeah, let's see where it takes us. Hopefully to Group 1.
Hopefully to America. Come on.
Let's talk about that.
The real reason we do
this
is so that we get a free ticket.
What do you think Scotland's chances are actually getting a couple of good results?
Do you know, I
think that, do you know what?
On you go, Amanda. No, you go.
I was just going to say hope over fear. I think the players are phenomenal. The goals, I mean, it's just, you couldn't have wrote that. Like, see the overhead kick and all that, just absolutely fantastic. And I think that we're in a really good, we've got a really good chance. Why not us? I think Scotland as a nation, we always it's heartbreaking to watch Scotland. It's like it's like a horror film sometimes with the fear, but I think it's just, why not us? Why not? I think, don't get me wrong, like America, will the World Cup even go ahead with everything that's going on? That's my biggest fear. But I think that if there's ever a chance for us to progress within that arena, then I think this is the time, because the team is incredible. And every single player deserves to be there. I think that, do you know what? It's the start of the new year. We need to be hopeful. There's no point in getting into this thinking we're going to get pumped yet again. I hope over fear. I'm hopeful. Ask me again in June.
Me as well. I was saying, like, I'm forever the optimist, right? I've watched, like, from 1998, and like I was always the one that was out with the boys, like, so the girls are away out in cocktail lunches and I'm out with my partner and all his pals, like going to watch the games and watching Scotland. And like there was a game they were playing Italy, and I think it went to extra time, and I'm all the boys had walked away for the telly because they're like, it's no happening, and I'm still standing there going, there's 3 minutes left, we could still get 2 goals, we could still be in it. So I am forever the optimist, and I think that's why with the Denmark game, for me, it was like mental, because my husband had went to his bed. He's like, oh, I can't watch this, right? He's like, I can't watch it. And I think it's that that kind of years and years of sitting, going, right, we're doing it, and it no happening. And my husband went to his bed, and I'm sitting downstairs in the living room watching this unfold. And I'd actually thought it started later, and I'm on the WhatsApp family chat going, you fucking see, this is mental. And then it was like they'd got to go, and it was just nuts. And I remember just sitting at the end of it, greeting. I was sitting, breaking my heart, going, like, I can't believe we've done it. And I had to be the quietest I've ever been, because he's a grumpy bastard when you wake him up. So I was like, but I am like Amanda. I think we're in a really, really strong position. I think, over the kind of campaign, over the Euros and stuff like that, I'll be honest, there was times I was asking questions going, like, should we have changed tactics there and stuff like that? But I think, given me the manager's got us there now. So I think that we've got a strong team. I think they're playing incredibly, incredibly well as a team. And like where they're playing across like different countries, different levels, across the like some of the biggest clubs is incredible. So I'm back with my positive hat on, going, definitely I can see us. Why not win it?
Well, I don't know about that, but I agree with both of you that Scotland have got a decent team. I'm being positive as well. I mean, but you just mentioned it there. I mean, like the Steve Clarke's tactics and stuff. That's my only fear. I hope that he goes to the World Cup and just kind of has a bit of go. You know what I mean? I'm not saying go all out attack and that, but that last Euros, there was a couple of games against Hungary and against Switzerland where he just defended and he wanted a point. And see, to be honest with you, I think the teams that we've got, even Brazil, by the way, I think they're beatable. Brazil aren't the team they used to be, So these teams, Haiti, are more than beatable as well. And who's the other one? Is it Norway, innit? Norway?
I think so. I agree. I think if we're in, I agree. Like, you're no playing the Brazil in 1998 this time. Do you know what I mean? You're no in. But again, we were in holiday, and it was the last game when we went out at the Euros, and it was just we were all sitting there going, make a change, and by the time the change came, it was too late. So I agree. I think we've got a strong enough team. We don't always need to sit kind of defending, but here I'm no in that chair, so I've not got the pressure that he has. So it's easy to sit here and say, oh, if I was doing it, but. Nah, I know what I think I just hope we go for it. Definitely. Just a couple more questions before I let you go. Amanda, you said a wee bit earlier, but you'd like to get into the writing side of stuff and that. What have you got any other plans for the future you'd like to delve into in comedy?
Well, don't get me wrong, I do love performing comedy as well. Both of them go hand in hand. I just knew early on that if I can learn the skill of writing, then I'll have a job for life. Because everybody, there will become a stage where, basically, I think this year I'm doing a couple of different projects. I've done my debut show, Carted at the Edinburgh Fringe. I'm doing that again on the 1st of February, actually, in the Monkey Barrel Comedy Club. It's a strong show. I'm really proud of it, and there's tickets left for that. It's my first show in a bigger club, so I'm doing that. I'm taking the show to Liverpool as well, Hot Water Comedy Club, and then I'm writing a new show. So it's into the new show, and I'm doing a show called Death of a Saleswoman, and it's all about leaving corporate sales behind and getting into comedy, and to see. Is it viable? Can I follow my dream, or is it just, it's almost like the World Cup, try to be hopeful and exploring that. And that's going to be a solo show stand-up. I've also written my first play. Ironically, I discovered Rose Riley, our first guest, by reading a play about her life. I wrote a play for the Oran Moor, Play a Pie in a Pine, and I accidentally stole a book. Now, I don't want anybody coming for me for this, but I went along there was pamphlet type things, wee books. When I think about it, it's an actual novel, but no, they were available. I thought they were to take, and I realised you had to buy for them. But the first play in the book was a play called Rose, and it was about Rose Riley's life. And I read that play, and the words just bounced off the page. It really spoke to me. It was kind of like when I read Trainspotting for the first time, like to have people speak like me in a book, it was just amazing. So I want to explore that, and I'm also, like every other comic, I think, who exists, I'm trying to get a TV pilot off the ground as well. So I've written my first script, and that's based on my first Fringe show. So just trying to keep going. But yeah, definitely lots of plans, and obviously the road to the World Cup as well, which is the fun part. So yeah.
Well, that's it. You just need to keep hitting it, didn't you? I mean, it's like I was saying earlier about Shane Gillis. You know, he for years and years he was trying to, you know, just do the circuits all the time, and then eventually it happens. So you just stick at it, man. You know what I mean? It will happen eventually. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're doing well at the moment, but like, aye, well, definitely, I believe, man. How about yourself, Kirsty? What's your plans for the future?
So I'm doing. I did a show called Mishaps to Misses at the Glasgow Comedy Festival and Fringe, and I'm taking it back to Glasgow. So I've not done a debut yet as such. It's not a kind of big hype show, but this is just a show that I'm doing it at the Glasgow Comedy Festival on the 17th of March. Nice wee afternoon session, being a woman at 46. You know, I like to get a wee afternoon wine and home by a reasonable time, so I'm playing to that audience in the afternoon, like go to the dancing after. So I've got that on the 17th of March. But yeah, I've got an idea for a show and a concept for a show, but again, that kind of I just want to keep pushing myself and see where it goes, if it goes anywhere. I'm doing it because I enjoy it. I'm doing it because it's something I always wanted to do, and just getting better and doing as many gigs as I can and growing. That's kind of my thing. If it goes somewhere, great. If it doesn't, that's all right as well. But I just want to. I'm one of these people that I'm kind of in competition with myself. So every time I do it, I want to feel I'm growing. I want to feel I'm getting better. I want to feel I'm pushing myself out my comfort zone, because I like Amanda, I've had kind of corporate jobs and stuff, and it doesn't matter what organisation you went to, after 2 weeks you're like, it's the same job, it's just in a different company and different couple of folk you've got to work with. So for me, kind of turning 40 and doing something different, I'm doing something different in my career, which I absolutely love, and it's dead rewarding. And like my husband said, like folk will say to me, oh well, what happens if you make it? My husband says if I win the lottery, I'll still probably volunteer and do this job, because I do love it so much. But I just want to keep growing, keep getting better, and see where it goes. I've got no expectations. But if something comes to it, then my husband's like, right, okay, he's quite happy, because he thinks he'll be able to retire sooner. There's no chance of that. No in comedy.
Well, it's like that old saying, isn't it? You're talking about your passion and stuff like that. It's like, if you do a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life, isn't it? So,
well, do you know, that's what my dad always used to say to me, and I says, I ain't bothered. That's all right. You had the job that you loved, but genuinely, the job that I'm doing full time during the day is amazing. And I actually got up and said that I work with kids, and we did annual awards in the EICC this year, or earlier last year, beginning just before the summer holidays. And I got up and said to them, I was like that. I says, I now have a job that I love, and it doesn't feel like a job. I'm just sad it took me to 42 to find it, and that's on stage and on the day job. So I'm quite lucky in that way. So I just want to keep getting better, and hopefully Amanda will take me along for the ride.
We'll help each other, exactly.
That's it. We're there for each other. You're a team now, innit?
Aye.
So last question before I let you go. Mount Rushmore in America, as American presidents, the 4 biggest American presidents. I've got a question for you. If you were to put comedians on Mount Rushmore, who's your top 4 comedians? Not necessarily who are the best, but who you find the funniest?
Right.
Only 4, you try to make us fall with the entire comedy scene.
I know.
It doesn't need to be like, you know, anybody doing it. Just like of all time.
That's the thing. I think because it's like when we do things, you always try and tag folk as many folk because you don't want them to missing them do it.
If I put you on the spot, so if anybody's watching it, don't take offence.
No, I think for me, I really love George Carlin. So I think that he's probably my favourite comic, especially now. I think his stuff's so relevant now. I think the way the world's gone, you need laughter to cope with everything that's happening, and the way he got the way he was able to break things down, and just a guy's funny as fuck. Like, I really like his style. So he would be there for sure. I really like a comedian called Louisa Omelan. She's an English comedian, but I mean, this is going to sound like I'm a weirdo stalking her. I'm no in commissioner, fuck all. But I just, I think that she's a really strong show writer. So she's done a lot of solo shows, and I think she was kind of, I came across her, I stumbled across her show called Politics for Bitches, and it was a show about a mum dying, but it was basically she was poking fun at how all the politics behind the scenes for somebody dying and stuff that can be prevented and all that. But it was just so powerful, but really funny as well. And that kind of taught me that you can find the laughter in the darkness, which is kind of my style of comedy, my first show anyway. So I really like her. I think Karen Dunbar, I think that she's probably one of the funniest persons that I've ever had the pleasure of working with or meeting. Like, just really, really quick, really sharp. I don't know. I mean, I think there's. I'm really. Well, I should be saying Hollywood stars, but I don't know. I think George Carlin for sure, and I mean, as I'm Scottish, I should say Billy Connolly, but I would probably say instead Bridges. I think he's got the edge, but all-time favourite four. Do you know what? I've missed a guy out that I love, a guy called Ralphie May. I really love him. He's dead now, but he's hilarious. An American comedian. I don't know if you've came across Ralphie May.
I know Ralphie May.
Just hilarious. So I'd change it. I'd have George Carlin. I'd have Ralphie May. I would have a Scottish comic. We'll leave it vague at that. And I don't know. There's so many people. Do you know what? We'll leave a space empty for anybody who wants to put me on their tour support. There you go.
There you go. So I like your style there.
For me, Catherine Ryan is somebody that I think absolutely, I just love her. I've kind of read her autobiography and stuff like that, and I just love her and love the fact that, like, she's kind of adapted. It was all, you know, she's like, yeah, I know I used to hate men, but now I quite love them. It's quite good. So I just think she's great. Been to see her recently. Amanda and I went to see somebody else that I kind of came across, and she was on live at the Apollo, Laura Smith. And what I really liked about her was that I could relate to her. So she had on this kind of long dress, and it was going on about how the long dress had pockets in it, and like the fact that she had a teenage daughter who was going to Ibiza, and like, so she's trying to gear up and kind of talk to her about when she's going to Ibiza, and she's like, I'll not be doing drugs, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was like this whole, she's like, grew up kind of same time, she's just a bit younger than me, so that kind of relatability of being a mum, and like, you know, how your daughter looks at you as if you've got horns growing out your head and doesn't want to speak to you when she was turned 13, and you're an embarrassment now, and how like the kids nowadays are very, very different from what it was like when we were growing up. So, and that's kind of my style with that mishaps to misses as well. So really, really like her. Mickey Flanagan as well is somebody that my husband and I don't often like the same kind of comics. And I think me being involved in comedy now is kind of, I watch comedy and I'm just constantly watching now and learning, and you look at it through a completely different lens. So he hates watching comedy because like you can't watch comedy with me going, "Ooh, I seen what they done there," and like, you know, you're constantly switched on to it, and it's a different experience. But Mickey Flanagan's somebody that him and I absolutely love, and I think like that, it's been our life, you know, the fact that I'm going like that to him, right? You're going to your pals telling them I'm all asking for them, and he's going, there's fucking no way I'm going into the pub and telling them they're asking for you. And then he comes home and me and all my pals are like, you know, on about the 20th bottle of wine and fucking one's dancing over at the height. So it's that, again, that relatability I really like about it. And yeah, finally, I have said, but again, I'm going to avoid Scottish ones altogether, and I think Richard Pryor. That for me is just that wit. For me it was growing up and watching that, but sneaking watching it as well. You know, because like I was a wee bit young probably to watch it at the time. But Richard Pryor, when you still watch back on stuff, absolutely love it. That kind of humour. That's probably mine.
Yeah,
I agree with Pryor because sorry,
I was just going to say I would say that that one of my favourite comedians in Scotland would be a woman called Viv G, and she, as I said, she was the coach when I first started comedy, and she's trained loads of other people, and she's just really, really funny. You should check out her stuff. And without her, I wouldn't be doing comedy, but without her, you're talking Susie McCabe, Billy Kirkwood, Des Clark, Des McLean, Jojo Sutherland, Jay Lafferty. Like, honestly, this woman is created the comedy scene, and I think she deserves her own mountain, I suppose. But I think it's just so diverse. I actually love hearing Kirsty's favourite comics, because I don't think we've even talked about this. It's interesting to hear because it's just so diverse, and it's so subjective. And I just love hearing about it all. And Richard Pryor, for me, obviously, really, really hilarious guy, but I think I missed it. Like, I missed that sort of. But then George Carlin, I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? How you're drawn to a certain type of person.
As you say, it's subjective.
And it's your influences as well. And that's what Amanda and I were saying the other night, that the good thing about comedy is you might be sitting watching somebody and go, this isn't really for me, but then 5 minutes later somebody else comes on and it's somebody you can probably really, really relate to. So but I totally agree with Viv. Viv's got a show on the 22nd of March, Lady Gag, which I think is an absolute belter of a name. So Viv's brilliant. So if you can, go and see Viv as well.
Definitely, but it's totally subjective. I mean, because I love Michael McIntyre, but he's hilarious. But then I'll speak to my mum about him, and she's like, I can't stand him. Every time he goes on the telly, I need to turn that off. And you're like, I don't even get that. Do you know what I mean? I just find him hilarious. But
he's very Michael McIntyre really splits comics as well. So a lot of people are like, I don't like him, blah blah blah. But I think he's really hardworking. He puts in the graft. He's a proper gag merchant. And his stuff's so observational that a child could watch that and in it. Like, it's just, he's an amazing comedian. And sometimes I don't understand how people, you almost get offended on their behalf. Like, you're like, how can you not like this?
I know, it's really bad. What about, do you know Jim Jeffries as well? I need to mention him.
Oh, God, just, again, like, just so, my favourite comics are probably dark humour. I've got a gallows humour. And when I first started it, I started it with really dark gags. And it was interesting because a man could go on the stage and get laughs, but a woman, I used to go on dead dark. And I'd have people coming up to me after a gig quite upset at this when I was in my first year of starting. And then in order to get gigs and develop, I kind of had to change it a wee bit in order to get the gigs and be palatable. And then it's almost getting back to what you want to be doing now that you've kind of established yourself. But I think dark humour's only good if it works. Like, obviously, like Jimmy Carr, There's a guy called, there's another comedian I love, Anthony Jeselnik. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. Mark Normandy.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have like a Maria Bamford. I would love to have like a list of here's 20 female comedians that I love, and of course there's hundreds of amazing comics, but for some reason it's a lot of male comics that seem to be, you've got more exposure to them, I suppose, maybe that's it. But I think Anthony Jeselnik, Mark Normandy, just we could go on forever, like just amazing.
I think when it comes to women and that kind of humour, Joan Rivers comes to mind. She was quite, she was quite dark humour and stuff like that. So
I think I think with female comics, like obviously, I think in Scotland there's a lot of women who are absolutely smashing it. And there's obviously, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, like, you know, all the people who've came before us, like your Janie Godleys, your Susie McCabe's, all these people who are allowing us, they've opened the door for us to be allowed to kind of do it. And I think as a female comic, women get judged more than men anyway. That's just facts. And I think a lot of people expect you to be shite. So it's really fun when you can get the audience straight away. I mean, I took my comedy into all the jails in Scotland. I went round Berlin and every other jail, and I think to get a gym hall full of guys laughing, do you know what I mean? You'll be all right in a comedy club. So I think Scotland, the Scottish comedy scene is really strong as well. I mean, if you were to form a World Cup team, you would be really hard to pick your players because honestly, the scene the new is really thriving, and we're just glad to be part of it.
Aye, definitely.
Try to think of the boy that I like. He does a podcast with a couple of other boys. Mark something. What's his name again?
Mark Nelson.
Mark.
Oh, Mark Jennings. There's some laugh.
Mark Jennings. He's really good. Like him.
He's a really strong writer. Him. And I think like it's quite inspiring when you look at the successful comics in Scotland because. Look, coming into this year will be my 5th year performing. I think Kirsty's similar, and I think it's a lot of pressure to go online and create a content, create a following and all that. And of course, that's the world we live in. But a lot of these people, like the Some Laugh guys, the people selling out the Kings, they've been grafting away for 10, 15 years. And there's a Scottish guy I like. He's called Connor Burns. He's a young guy. And, you know, these people have been gone for a long time, and it just shows you what can be done if you're willing to put the work in. But again, it's like this whole pressure of people think that you're an overnight success, but it's took you maybe 10 overnights, 10 years to get there. And I think Mark's got a show at the Kings as well. So he's a really nice guy.
Aye, I do enjoy watching that podcast because a couple of the boys are in it. But I mean, you're saying about like putting content out there and stuff. I think TikTok's really good for that. Eh? I mean, you look at guys like Stuart Mitchell who are getting really popular now because you just see a 2-minute clip and you think, right, I'm going to dive into that. You know what I mean? And like guys like Paul Smith doing in Liverpool and stuff. I mean, that's how he became big.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Stuart, like I think I've been lucky enough to work with him, but he is probably the hardest working comic in Scotland. He's do you know what? I really admire his comedy, but I admire his business sense as well. He's been doing comedy for 15 years or something, and this is him just kind of getting recognised. But he's got like the decades of experience to get really good and to showcase that strong like crowd work and stuff. But it's interesting because he's had a really interesting life, and basically the only reason I know this is because one of my pals went to see his show, and it's like, he spoke about this and this, and I'm like, well, aye, the crowd works to get you in the door, but he's got a really good show to back it up as well. So again, no one any commission or fuck all, but
but again, I think it's because he had quite a hard life, I think, innit? Because I think his parents have both passed away and that. Because I watched that Glasgow Dad podcast.
Yeah, Raymond Burns as well. What a legend, Raymond.
Aye, so they was kind of telling me a bit about that and stuff, but aye, man. No, but fair play to you, everybody. This will be going out tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. Get yourselves along to Blackfriars. £10 a ticket, as I say, starts at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Kick-off's at 5, doors open at 4:30. So aye, come and join us. We'll have a laugh.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with it all. And thanks very much for coming on, guys. All the best for the future.
Brilliant.
Thank you,
Thanks,
you
Jamie.
too.
Cheers
Take
for
care.
having us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.